Hey everybody, welcome back to Mini Bike Mike's CT70 Garage. So today's video, we are going to take a quick look at the differences between an ST90 frame, a CT70 frame, and an Ice Bear, a 2018 Ice Bear CT70 clone. I've gotten some questions about the different frames and is an ST90 frame identical to a CT70 frame? So you know what? Today we're going to find out. I've never really taken measurements myself, so this is kind of a learning thing for myself as well as you guys. We're going to start at the front and work our way back. Now, obviously, we don't have forks on it. Forks are different between an ST90 and a CT70, especially what we're comparing a K0. The ST90 has the detachable front end and it has the hydraulic forks, like a later model CT70 does. So today we're just concentrating on the frame. So 7 1/4. And I believe the Ice Bear is the same. 1 3/4 inches. Yeah, so the head tube that they've used is all the same. You could bolt any front end on any of these. Looks like the ST90 does have this extra welded heavier piece here for the steering stop, and it's part of the that detachable front end, where the CT70 only has the small steering stop. The Ice Bear has the exact same setup as the CT70 does, just with a little welded steering stop. I wanted to take some measurements. Make sure you guys are looking at me. Sorry. Yeah, you're there. So it looks like from the front of the head tube to the rear of the frame, we're right at 32 1/16 inches. Same, we're here. So yeah, the frame is the same length, obviously. They're measuring the same, they look the same. Let's see, so that's 16 3/4. Yep, we're the same here. About 4 7/16. We're the same width up here. These little pieces are a little bit different. I'll flip the frame over and show you. This one is flat on the CT70 right up against the frame. Looks like the Ice Bear's the same way, where the ST90 has bumped out, and it comes out a little farther to help support the shock arms that come out here, the post. 10 3/4, and that's why the ST90, they're an inch wider. They stick out. The distance from outside to outside on the shock post is 10 3/4, where it's only 9 3/4 on this, and that's probably to do with a wider swing arm. Not really sure. I wonder if they're the same diameter. Yes, they sure are. And the Ice Bear is the same also, so that's the same. I really think most of the difference between these two is going to be in this bottom's part where the engine mounts. Let me lay them down here and take a look at that. Sorry, once again, I'm going to check and make sure you're in the camera view. You could probably be tilted down a little bit. So I'm curious, there's a body line right here on each of the frames. About 11 1/8 inches. 11 1/8 inches. Wow. So the frames themselves are nearly identical. You got a little different cutout right here. Got a little bit different going on. The CT70 uses 2 bolts to mount the engine, where the ST90 uses 3. So this basically, you know, you're the same here. It's this welded on part, 4 3/4. Wow, 6 7/8. So you're more than 2 inches longer from this body seam to the end of here than the CT70 is. The other thing I wanted to measure, I think this front bolt hole is in the exact same location on both frames. We're going to use, so that's 16.5 inches from this top cradle mounting hole to the bolt hole there. 16.5 inches. So we are the same. This bolt hole is basically in the same spot on the frame on both of them, on the ST90 and the CT70. Now, like I said, the big difference is where you would need there to be a bolt hole at about 22 3/8. There is none. This would need to be. So if you wanted to bolt an aftermarket engine, a Lifen or a Piranha, into a ST90 frame, you're going to need to come up with some way of creating a hole right around in this area someplace. So I don't know if you could cut this off and weld in the bottom part if you had an old junk or a CT70 frame, you know, that was, say, rusty or bent or whatever, and you wanted to salvage the bottom part and put on there. You could probably do that. Like I said, it looks like you might have to kind of take out some of this curvature too. But all right, let's check on the width and see what that does. And again, I'm going to check and make sure that you guys, I could probably zoom you in a little bit. Okay, I can see the difference here, and I'll bring you guys over. So from the inside to inside of this, what I'm going to call the top bolt hole, it's about 3 5/8 inches on the CT70. On the ST90, it is 4. And I'm going to bring you around and show you what the difference is, what they've done. Because I think the frame is essentially the same. They've just made a minor tweak. All right, on the CT70 frame, you see how this runs and is just straight. You come over here to the ST90 and you've got, it comes up, well then it makes a little dog leg and kicks out. And I'm going to guess, I bet you from the inside of here to the inside of where it's straight, I bet that is probably the same as the CT70. Let me set you back down and we will measure that. It is, it's really, really close. So let's take a look. I've got a mock-up engine that I use. Okay. Got the bolt in the wrong hand. Okay, there. So it does, you can use, you could bolt the engine using the front hole. Now, what I don't know is, what you'd have to figure out is which direction the engine needs to go. Like I said, we're going from 3 5/8 inches wide on the CT70 frame to 4 inches wide. So this engine can slide left and right. Now, I don't know. I'm going to Well, I'm not going to assume. I don't know. The chain is going to need to be in line with the rear tire. So it almost makes me think maybe it needs to be pushed as far this direction to the left side of the bike as possible. So you'd have to shim this up, but I don't know that. You'll have to, if you want to do this, you'll have to figure that one out. That's a question that I don't know the answer to. But it does look like you could use that top hole. And then now you're going to see better what I'm talking about. Yeah, you would need to do some trimming around up in here, like the CT70 has. This kind of comes up and around. And then now you can see here's the mounting hole on the engine, and we don't have anything on the frame to mount to that. So you'd either need to make some kind of bracketry or weld in a piece here to get that to fit. Let me zoom you out a little bit. So, kind of see what I'm talking about? But like I said, I think from this body line up, the frames are really, really similar. It's just this bottom welded on part that's different. All right, so the last thing I want to do is I brought in a scales, and I want to weigh each one of these frames. So I think I'll actually shut you down for just a second, kind of get set up a little bit better, and then we'll weigh each one of these and see how they compare. All right, let's see what the difference is in weight between the different frames. So this is the ST90 frame. Oh, I got a glare. Looks like it weighs 18.7 pounds. 18.7. I can tell this is going to be considerably lighter. Wow. So this frame, the CT70 frame, weighs 13 pounds. See that top line? Whoop, I bumped it. That's why it jumped to 13.2. 13 pounds. Wow. So the ST90 frame weighs almost 6 pounds, weighs 5.7 pounds heavier. I know that we've got the extra length on the bottom. The one thing I didn't point out, it also, the ST90, this is solid. It's a solid piece, not just a bar with a hole in it, as you can see right there. You know, and it does have the extra steering stop thing welded on, but boy, it doesn't seem like all that would weigh 5.5 pounds more. I wonder if the material for the frame itself is heavier. And then just for shits and giggles, we're going to weigh the Ice Bear frame. So the Ice Bear frame weighs 16.95. Now it should be comparable to the CT70 frame. Now it does have this welded onto it, the seat latch welded onto it right here, which is a little different. And obviously I've got some decals, but they shouldn't weigh anything. It does have a key lock here that maybe the CT70 doesn't have. But it should be pretty much identical, and it weighed 16, so it weighs almost 4 pounds heavier. So they're obviously using thicker material on the clones than what the original Honda used on theirs. Anyway, there you go. So hopefully that, if you had any questions about the differences between a CT70 and an ST90, hopefully that answers some of them. Now, there are a couple other subtle little differences. Obviously, the ST90 has that for the air cleaner and so forth that the CT70 doesn't have. But I was just kind of comparing if you wanted to bolt an aftermarket engine into an ST90. So anyway, guys, thanks a lot for following along. Appreciate you comments and likes and subscribing and all the things you guys do on every video. So we will see you on the next one. Later. Well, one more thing before I actually let you guys go. I thought I'd go ahead and show a picture of the swing arms for each bike. The left is a ST90, and then the right is a CT70. And you can see that the real difference is in the front. The ST90 swing arm sandwiches the frame. The frame fits in between the swing arm, where on the CT70, the swing arm fits in between the frame. And then the ST90 is, inch and a half longer, maybe, something like that. I didn't really measure the width on them, but that's the difference in the swing arm. So just thought I'd throw that in. Later, guys. See you on the next video.